And today we have a new brand Liquid AIO coming from Thermaltake, and this is none other than the LA360-S ARGB Sync, and this is a 360 Liquid AIO. Now this Liquid AIO comes in two variants, which is 240 or 360. The one I'm having is the 360. Before I proceed, I'd like to thank Thermaltake to have provided this unit for me to share with everyone, and to my local distro Cobel, thank you very much for the arrangement on the delivery. Now this box in fact is sealed. I removed off the seal. This is my first time unboxing it. Now at the back you have all the specs and such. Okay, let me just grab. A very simple protection, I should say eggshell cardboard. You'll be provided with instruction. Wow, this is pretty big. It's just one leaflet. Very straightforward. I believe this is the regulatory booklet. Now you will be protected. I mean the unit will be protected with this form, inclusive of the pump. This is the accessory box which I will go through, and the main unit, the pump block, and the radiator. For the accessories in this black box, all this is wrapped with this Ziploc bag. Starting on from my left, you have a spatula and a tube of thermal paste. This is 2 grams. 12 short screws. This is meant for you to mount your radiator to your case. 4 retention mounting nut. This is for you to clamp your block to the processor. The AMD bracket. This is meant for AM4 and AM5 platform. And finally, the Intel, where you have the backplate, the Stanos for 2011 and 2066 socket. And this back over here, this is meant for the 115X, inclusive of the 1700 and the 185X. Now, speaking about the backplate, most of the backplate in fact is made of plastic and some are made of metal. This is full-on metal, which is good. It gives the rigidity. Another thing to point out is that they have a very unique swivel point at this end over here. Now a lot would prefer to have a fixed position, as in like you will clip in place. For this, right, is swivel point, and this has a good intention too. So imagine that if you're mounting this to the back of the motherboard, right, for 1700 socket you need to push all this out, as in like this threads out. So you'd be wondering, hey, this is, you know, moving about, it's not going to be stable. Not really. So what you need to do is just that, you know, if following my style, right, will be index finger on one point, push this out, point to your motherboard, push this out, point to another, push this out, point to another, and push this out. See, to me it's actually very convenient. This is the main unit. I'll start off with the radiator. Now kindly note that I've deliberately taken off the fans, which I will talk about it, and all these fans are mounted on the radiator with these long screws, so you don't have to take them out. Alright, I just want to show you how it looks like on the radiator. Starting off with the measurement, this is at 397mm by 120mm, and as for the thickness, this is at 27mm. If I am to add on with the fans, these are 25mm, you have a total thickness of 52mm. And as for the fin stack on the radiator, I have measured 1 inch, which is here. This is 20 fins per inch. The structure of the radiator is full aluminium. It's very sturdy, and each side it has a label Thermaltake. And these are not very subtle. I hope that Thermaltake can do it subtle, as some of us prefer to have this, you know, sync on the radiator as in like black. Now it has a very nice tube, or should I say sleeving on a tube, and this length is of 380mm. On each side, the fittings itself on the radiator, these are not swivel, it's made of metal. And over at this end, this is something which I enjoy. The swivel point is very good, very flexible. I like this. And again, the fitting are in metal. Now coming to the pump block, you just need to swivel this. Now starting off with the top, this is a segment LCD. What does that mean? There will be fixed reading on the LCD panel. This is of 22.4 inch and has a resolution of 320 by 240, and this you can remove off. And something which puzzled me, that probably is because of easy mounting, that's why you take this out, because it's pretty big. The thing is that I was expecting that if you remove this, right, you can attach this outside of the case, but I don't think it's possible, because you see this is the screen is being connected to the pump block. So probably Thermaltake can improve on this, having this a separate cable, so when you detach, right, you can place this outside the case itself. Now as for the measurement of the pump, this is at 56 mm and this is at 57.2 mm. And as for the height, this is at 40.5 mm. At the base of the cold plate, or should I say the block, is a copper cold plate, and it's pretty big. Nice. And of course, you'll be given with all these cables, or should I say needed to connect. You have the 9-pin USB connector, which is meant for you to connect to your motherboard for you to display the readings on the LCD panel. And you have the pump connector, which is a 4-pin PWM connector. And last but not least, the 3-pin 5V ARGB. Now as for the specs of this pump, it's running on 12 DC and have a current of 0.3 ampere. And as for the RPM, minimum at 1500 and the maximum at 2500 RPM, plus minus 10%. The whole casting of the pump block is made of plastic, and to attach this piece is by magnet. Just make sure that you align this slot here to the pins over here, so that this will display the readings on the LCD. And there are a touch of ARGB effect, as you can see all this white translucent area. So these are the ARGB effect. Nice. Now coming to the fan, since this is a 360, there are a total of 3 fans. And the first impression when I hold it, it's very sturdy, it doesn't wobble. See, when I swivel, nice. And at the side, with very simple design, these are brushed aluminium. In fact, this is plastic, it's just that the pattern is brushed aluminium. Now besides this, right, all these fans are of 9 bladers, and there are ARGB effects on the blade. And each of these fans, on all 4 corners, you have anti-vibration rubber grommets, be it this side or this side. Now coming to these fan specs, these are known as the TT1225 A1225H12S. It draws a 12 volt DC at the amperage of 0.35 ampere. And as for the RPM, minimum it runs at 600 and the maximum it runs at 2500 RPM, plus minus 10%. As for the airflow is 79.3 CFM, and for the static pressure is at 3.45 mm H2O. And as for the noise resolution is at 38.35 decibel. Now one thing unique about these fans that I like so much is the daisy chain mechanism. As you can see, it has a proprietary 7-pin at one end and all the short cables over here. But on one of the fans, right, you have this speed out that has a 4-pin and a 3-pin 5V ARGB. And to connect the fans is pretty straightforward. First of all, locate the cable, tuck the cable into this slot, okay, from this end. Then over here, connect the proprietary male 7-pin to the female socket. So once you plug it in, right, now joining this together, right, with this cable over here, just plug to this slot again. I'm just going to do it right now. So once you have it in, right, okay, this is in. you can tuck the whole connector to this slot. So when you do this to all the fans, right? When you daisy chain them together, right? You see, you won't be looking at any cable mess at all. Nicely done. I like this. Well done. For Intel platform, it happened that this is a 1700 socket. You will need the back plate, the 4 standoffs, and the mounting board. First thing you do, turn over your motherboard, allocate the 4 screw holes using the back plate. Now this is the part whereby you will need to push this out so that you can, point the 4 points to this. And it doesn't matter this direction or that direction, just make sure that this protruding up, okay, is facing downwards. So I'll do is placing an index finger on one point, push to one of the holes first. Once this is anchored, right, followed by the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. Now the thing is that this back plate does not have a double-sided tape, so it doesn't bite onto the back frame over here. You will need to support it, and I'll advise you that do this outside the case and not inside the case, because if you're going to do it inside, right, you're going to have a problem. It's like difficulties to align this 4 thread to the holes. So once it's done, right, support it, turn over your motherboard. And when you turn over your motherboard, don't let go and put it on the mat. Okay, the back plate will drop. Still holding on to it, supporting it this way. Make use of your 4 standoffs. Now do take note, one side is short, one side is long. The long thread will be facing upwards. So at this point in time, I'll just anchor 2 points. So that I can place the board on the mat. So this is the part is pretty tricky. I was fiddling with it earlier and I keep on dropping the back plate. So this is the best way to actually do it. And as advised, make sure this is done outside the case. Okay, once you have anchored 2 points, right, you can just place it down. Alright. Then finish up the 2 standoffs. Now, at this corner over here, I often having problem because of my fat fingers. So just have to take a bit of time and patience. Okay, let's see that I can screw it. See, I keep on dropping the thing because I can't anchor it properly. I hope that this Liquid AIO manufacturer, right, have some kind of tool that, it's like having a tool to extend and it'll be easier to fasten the standoffs. Anyway, done. Just do hand tight again, secure everything. Next thing you need to do is to use alcohol with some white to clean it dry. Once it's done, apply thermal paste, do the spread method, and finally your block. And for the block, make sure you remove off this plastic cover. And to make use of alcohol, clean it, wipe it clean, because when you peel this off, right, don't assume that it's clean, because there's sticky substance over here. So I'll advise that you would to use alcohol to clean it and to wipe it properly. Now for illustration purposes, I'm not going to remove this, as I always keep on saying this, my Intel processor in fact is dead, so I can't test on the Intel processor. Anyway, the way to fix the block, assuming this is taken off and it's clean, your thermal paste is there. So the way to do it, right, your holes must be facing towards the M.2 and not the RAM slots. Okay, make sure it's this way so that the display will be correct. If you place it this way, right, it's gonna be, the display is gonna be very funny. So make sure that you do it this way. So since there are 4 standoffs over here, anchor this, and this. Now to advise at this moment of time, right, you can remove this. This is pretty flimsy when you hold it, so you can have a full control to hold the block. So when you anchor it to the 4 points, press it down and you wiggle a bit so that the spread will go evenly between the cold plate and your IHS. Next will be your mounting board. Okay, slowly, you don't have to over screw it. Just make sure that it's screwed until it stops. Then you can proceed on with the rest of the area. See? Now at all times, right, while you are doing this, right, have your finger to press on the block. You don't need a lot of force, it's just that, you know, to anchor it. Now I'm just going to do the other side. I will just switch my fingers. So at all times, this is being pressed at the center. Reason being, right, you wouldn't want bubbling or between the IHS and the cold plate. I'm talking about the thermal paste. So you want the thermal paste to really grab to your processor. Now this last point over here. Okay, once this is done, right, let me just push it down. Once this is done, right, make use of your screwdriver. Fasten it alternately. So probably one round over here, one round over here, then one round over here, and one round at the bottom. Alright, repeat the pattern again until you feel that the bolt does not screw any further. There is a resistance, it stops there. Do not, you know, over tighten it. That means to say all your 4 points, right, are mounted correctly and your cold plate is mounted at a balanced pressure, and that will yield good results. Now the final step will be connecting all the connection point. Alright, let's see if you can see this. Now on the pump itself, there are 3 connection points which I'll be showing you. Okay, this is the pump and these are the connection points. I will first start off with the pump, which is very important. Read your instruction manual. Make sure you know where the pump header is. Now this is for the pump, which is 4-pin PWM connector. Plug this first to the pump header, which I know is here. Alright, followed by your ARGB connection point, the 3-pin 5V ARGB. So I have 2 headers over here. I can just plug any one of them. And this is done. Finally, this, which is the 9-pin USB connector for you to display the readings on the LCD. So right at the bottom, right, this USB 2.0 socket, just plug it in. Alright, the pump is done. The final step, which is your radiator fan. Now your radiator fans will have 2 cable too. One is for ARGB, the other is for the rotation of the fans, which is the 4-pin PWM. Now with this, right, I would to connect this first, because this is more important where it rotates your fan. So with this 4-pin PWM fan connector, right, look for the CPU fan header, which is CPU underscore fan. In most of the motherboard, you will have CPU underscore fan or CPU underscore fan 1. Plug it to that, because that's the master controller. Now once you've done this, okay, I know it's over here, so I'm just going to plug it over here. Okay, this is done. Once it's done, the last step, which is, okay, let me just do this properly. The 3-pin 5V ARGB, which controls the effect on your fans. Now, in the event if you do not have an extra ARGB connector over here, and let's say it's at the bottom, it's too far to reach, you can make use of the pump ARGB connector, whereby it has a splitter on the cable itself. You can make use of this to plug to your radiator fan ARGB. Okay, but do take note, if you do this, right, daisy chain to, the pump to your radiator fans ARGB, right, both of the effect, be it the pump or the fans, right, it will be of the same pattern, same color. If you want to do it separately and your board has a separate ARGB connector, leave the pump to one connection point, the other, which is your fan, to another ARGB connection point. And once this is done, everything is done. You can start to fire up your system. For AMD platform, be it AM4, AM5, things that you'll need: the 4 mounting board and the standoffs. Now, this standoffs does come with screws, which is total of 5. You only need 4, but I'm not going to use these screws. Instead, I'll be using the original screws. Reason being, right, the original screws are much longer, so you will have a firm grip on these brackets. Now, first thing to do, as you have seen, I already taken out one screw. Take out the original bracket, make sure you unscrew all this, retain the screws. Okay, place the mounting bracket. Now for the mounting bracket, I hope that Thermaltake will do some indication, as in like pointing towards the processor, so that you will not waste time, if we mount it wrongly. I know that the correct way is this way, which the 2 side wing is pointing towards the processor, see? So once you've done this right, you can start mounting the screws to tighten the bracket on the motherboard. So I'm just going to tighten it. Now the way that I do it, right, I will not over tighten it. In fact, once it's stopped, right, I'll just stop there. And I always like to hold things so that it has an even pressure. Imagine that I leave this away, right, and I just tighten this, right. If it's over tightening, right, this thing will just come out. So that's my practice. In fact, it's a good habit you guys should follow. Now, once I know that all are in place, right, I just do a final tightening, just 1/4 tight of each side. Now once it's done, clean the processor with alcohol, wipe it clean. Next is your pump. Now for your pump, remove off the LCD panel so that you can have a firm grip. Then on the underside, remove this tape. Make sure you remove this tape. Okay, then apply alcohol, clean it. Now I forgot to mention over here, right, when you use alcohol to clean and to wipe, next will be applying thermal paste. Use the spread method, then followed by this. Once you've done all this, right, anchor this 4.1, 2, 3, and 4 to here. Okay, the threads that's protruding out, and make sure that the hose is facing towards the M.2 and not the DDR5 slot. So once you have anchored properly the 4 points, okay, like right now, you can push it down and wiggle so that your thermal paste, right, will be evenly pressed and spread between the cold plate and your IHS, which is your processor. Next, use the mounting board to tighten the whole block. But for a start, I'm just doing an anchor point. So I'll just turn until, see, it stops. I will just stop. When you want to do the other side, switch fingers, always holding on to the block. See, it stops. Then followed by the last one. Okay, you can see the last one. Okay, probably you can, right here. See, once this is, okay, once this stops, I will stop. Next, still holding on to the center, right, I will just screw alternately. One round over here, one round over here, one round over here, and one round over here. Continue this pattern so that your cold plate will have an even pressure to the IHS. Okay, assuming that you screw until the bolt stops. Do not screw in any further. That tells you that, you know, the cold plate, I mean the block, is seated nicely. Assuming this is done, next step you'll need to do, first thing, tackle the pump connection point. You have total of 3. Right, first, the pump motor, which is the 4-pin PWM connector. Connect it to the AIO underscore pump connector. If you don't know where your pump header is, right, refer to your motherboard instruction manual. So I know this is actually the white header. I'll just plug it in here. Once this is done, next thing to do, you can plug your ARGB connector. Okay, there's one header over here, so I just plug to this header. Sometimes the ARGB connector can be very tricky, but don't force it. Okay, this is done. Last but not least, this, which belongs to the pump, the 9-pin USB connector. Connect to the USB pins over here. So your pump right now, once you've done this, is done. Alright, you can place back this, which is like this. It only goes in one direction because it's like, you know, this socket towards the pin. So once it's done, right, the last final step, okay, I'm just going to clean all this. Your radiator fan connection point, which has a 4-pin PWM connector and the 3-pin 5V ARGB. Always start with the 4-pin because this is more important. It rotates your fan blades to cool down the whole system. So on your motherboard itself, look for the CPU_1, which I know this is the one. Now this motherboard indication over here is CPU_fan1. So be it CPU_fan or CPU_fan1, right, it means the same. It's the master controller on every board. So make sure you connect it to here. This is done. Last step, which is the ARGB. Now this board ARGB point, there's one over here, but sometimes it's too far away. So what you can do is that on the pump ARGB connector, right, there is a splitter. See this splitter over here? You can join the radiator fan ARGB to the splitter. No issue. Okay, unless you have a separate one, or you can reach to the bottom, this is a separate one. You want to have the ARGB effect based on the pump is towards the pump, the radiator is towards the radiator. So we can just plug it this way separately. So when you use the motherboard utility, right, you can control individually, as in like to have one pattern on the pump, to have one pattern on the fans. This is done. The first thing you need to do before your LCD will work, you will need to install this application over here. And I'll just leave the URL in my description. You can click and download. In fact, it's from Thermaltake official website. Now once you have installed this, right, on the taskbar itself, you'll see this icon which says TT segment. Just double click on it and it will bring you to this interface. It's a very straightforward interface. In fact, what this does is to pull stats off and to show on the screen. As mentioned to you, this is a segment LCD. You can't change the settings, like, or should I say the readings, like instead of showing your CPU, right, you want GPU, you can't. So these are the fixed stats, like your CPU temperature, your CPU load, and the fan pump on your radiator. Now, but one thing you can do is that if you want to show your pump RPM instead of the radiator fans RPM, you can select the last one, which you can see here, and to choose the pump instead of the radiator fans. See, once you select that, right, looking on my left, it will just change. It's instant. Or you can predefine the rest, like CPU temperature. You don't to see CPU temperature, you can, you know, look at the list of what you want to show here. But when you do that, right, make sure you know that what stats you have put Okay, for example, this radiator fan. By right, it should be radiator fans, but I pull the pump fan. So this is what I mean by make sure you know that, you know, those are the readings that you pull it out, though the label is incorrect. At the beginning, I've shown you the B-roll of the display of the LCD and the fans diffusion. Right now, you're looking at it live. The colors are so vibrant. And best part is that the display is very clear. Now, as for segment LCD, this is actually what you will get. The fixed display on the CPU temperature, the RPM on your radiator fans, and the CPU load at percentage. And it's like, you know, seriously, if you look at it live, right, it will be much more vibrant. My camera can't really capture how clear it is on the diffusion, on the ARGB, and on the display. Now, I'm just going to let you listen to the pump noise. If you look on my right, where it says pump and radiator fan. Now, the pump, I'm running it at full speed, even when it's on idle. Okay, as you can see, right, the speed is 2526 and such. This hit the target based on the spec. Now, this is how it sounds like when I place the mic near the pump, okay, at idle, but the pump is running at full speed. This is my microphone. Gonna do a sound test. Now, the microphone is near the pump. This is how it sounds like. Alright, I'm just gonna move away the microphone. Gonna place it over here. The mic is away from the pump about 1 feet, half a feet. Away from the fans, right, about 1 feet more. Okay, do a sound test. This is at idle. Now I'm just going to ramp up the Cinebench. Now take a look on my right again. Looking at the fans, right, I will run the Cinebench till it goes 2000 RPM and above. Then I will just let you listen for a couple of seconds before I stop. Here we go. This is how it sounds like when it's at load. Now that was at load, where the RPM on the fans, right, is ramping up all the way to 2460 plus. Now it is also hitting the mark, the mark on the specs, whereby it's 2500 plus minus 10%. Now this is at idle, as you can see. This is in green. Oh, by the way, I've set the ARGB to react with the temperature. So on green, right, this is actually on idle, and this is how it sounds like. Now I'm just going to ramp up the Cinebench again and look at the RPM on the fans. You can either look from here or on my right, and this is how it sounds like. There you have it. This is that load whereby you can hear that the fans are ramping up. In fact, if this were to place in the case, I would not be able to hear the pump at all. I will be able to hear the noise from the fan, but it's not very loud. Okay, not even a sharp pitch. It's just a light hum. Now I'm just going to do a thermal test, and before I do so, right, just to let you see the temperature of my room is 31.7 degrees Celsius. In fact, it's always hovering around 30 to 31 degrees Celsius and such, sometimes even 32. And I deliberately didn't turn on the aircon to cool down myself. So making use of this room temperature to test how well this liquid cooler can cool my processor. I've done a couple of stress tests using both applications, Citybench R23 and Thermaltake. Reason being, I have not used any discrete graphic card. I just want to stress on the processor itself, be it the CPU load and the graphic load. So with this say, right, the specs that I'm using, just to show you, the CPU I'll be using a Ryzen 9 9950X from AMD, and the motherboard I'll be using the MSI V850M mortar. And as for the RAMs, which is from the KingBank 32GB kit with cache latency of CL28 and a bus speed of 6000, and the wattage is at 1.45. And with this say, right, on UEFI I did trigger the offset on the vCore, which is minus 0.05 volt. And as for the SoC voltage for the RAMs, I have set it to a fixed 1.15 volt. And later when you see the Citybench running, right, probably the SoC voltage, right, will be around 1.16 or so. So nothing to be alert about. Now coming to the PBO settings, yes, I did that too. For the PBO limits, I've set it to auto, meaning to say pull default from AMD specs. As you can see, the PPT, PDC, and EDC, right, these are of default from AMD. And I also did curve optimizer. Let me just close this with per die, or should I say per core, per CCD. All right, first 8 core is minus 15 magnitude, and the next 8 core, which is the last 8 core, minus 10. And as for curve shaper, I've done these settings too. There are 3 different frequency, which is medium frequency, high frequency, and max frequency. And all these frequency have 3 temperature, which is low, mid, and high. So with the mid frequency, I've set it to minus 15 with all the temperature. And for high frequency, I've set it to minus 10 with all the temperature again. And last but not least, the max frequency at minus 5 with all the temperature. Alright, with this say, I am just going to run again. As you see, right, okay, let me just pull back all the stats. So sorry about this. Okay. Alright, I am clumsy at this. Okay, now, based on the fact that, as mentioned to you, I run a couple of tests to stress the processor, be it the 30 minutes or the 10 minutes throttle test. I've done about 3 to 4 times, based on the fact that I want to cure the original thermal paste that comes with this Liquid AIO. I mean, the paste to cure in between the cold plate and the IHS. So as you can see, I've let it idle for more than 21 minutes, and the temperature is hovering pretty good. I would say, take a look, it's at 48 degrees Celsius, and my room temperature is 30 to 31 degrees Celsius, which is not bad. Hovering at this, right, let's see how well it performs when I push the load for 10 minutes. Alright, I will talk about this right after the last 2 or 1 minute about all the results, all the thermal and such. Okay, here we go. The last 30 minutes or so, or should I say 1 minute 30 seconds or so. Now, the first thing I noticed is that the consistency on the clock average, or should I say the core clock average, is very consistent. There are not much dips which shows me that there is a consistency. And looking at the temperature, right, previously it was around 79 degrees, right now we went to 80, so I guess it's hovering around 79 to 80 degrees Celsius, which to me is not too bad. In fact, it's good. Or should I say this is actually a tier B liquid AIO for me. Anything that is below 76 degrees Celsius or 76, right, that is A tier. So this is actually considered B tier. Anything above 80 degrees Celsius, 82, 83, that is considered C tier. So with this said, right, looking at the rest of the stats, like the motherboard, the MOSFET, or should I say the VRM area, the chipset, the RAMs, and the drive, or should I say my M.2, all this did not go above 60 degrees Celsius. In fact, some of this, right, don't even touch 50 degrees Celsius, which is good. And it's hovering around, as expected for B tier liquid AIO, right, as what I categorize, right, it will hover around 4.9 to 5 gig, as you can see over here, the peak speed. See, it will go up and down. That is normal, and these are hovering very well. Now let me just wait for the scores and let's see how much did it score. I would say that overall this liquid AIO is able to sustain a 9950X or even if I find 9950X 3D. Now the score over here is 41K 834, which by default, if I don't do PBO limits and such, right, it will be at 39K. So it did as my expectation as a B tier liquid AIO, right, it did pretty well. There are tons of stuff I want to talk about this liquid AIO, which is the Thermaltake LA360-S ARGB Sync. Wow, a mouthful. Starting off with the pump block, I like how it looks like right now. Very retro look with all the segment display of your CPU, which is very large. I mean the temperature itself. And the rest, right, you did it correct. Subtle, as you don't really need to actually take a look on those unless you want to, take further investigation and such with the Radiator, RPM, and the CPU usage. But the thing is that what caught hold of my attention is that the way they have placed it is in like a very large, temperature showing over here. And I hope that the application itself, right, will, have this stats change to be like, GPU or maybe the water pump temperature and such. That would be great. And now, one thing, kudos to Thermaltake. You have done a very good approach on this panel itself, whereby you do not overdose with ARGB, a touch of ARGB, which will lift up the whole design of your pump, or should I say the display. Nicely done. Though there are some details, attention to details on their logo on the pump block itself, right? But once this is placed inside the case, right, you can't see it. So this is a nice touch. Now another thing is that I hope that this thing, when you remove off, right, you can place it outside the case, but there are no additional cables, or should I say, the cable is not separated off from the block. In order for this to work, right, you have to attach this back. See? So that's the thing. Now, coming to the mounting point of the block itself, for AMD, as mentioned to you, the standoff brackets, hopefully there are some arrows pointing towards the processor. Then, prevent people from mounting it wrongly. Because if you mount it wrongly and you've done the thermal paste and you want to place the block in, right, if you can't, right, then you have to remove everything again and to rotate the direction of the standoff. So that's the thing. Now coming to Intel, this is something which I don't understand. Probably Intel should follow the LGA style of what AMD should be doing. It's like, it's just remove and place the bracket and that's it. You have to add the back plate, the standoffs and such. It's a hassle, and based on the fact that the back plate itself does not have double-sided tape, so I got to support the back plate together with the motherboard. What if this is inside the case? Okay, if I want to change out my old air cooler to this, then I'll have to remove the whole motherboard out just to place the back plate, which is kind of silly. Cause you see, if this is inside the case, right, and even to leave the case flat, how are you going to support the back plate? Your whole case is so heavy. So that's the thing. Unless we, do some double-sided tape on the back plate ourselves and to stick it. So probably Thermaltake can, think about it. Probably do some double-sided tape on the back plate. Now, for the mounting of the screws, I really hate Intel mounting, especially this corner over here. Take a look at AMD. There is such a big gap. I can just, place my fat fingers in. Now, having said that, right, though it's actually tight corners, probably need to come out with a long, a tool which is long and stick the standoff to screw it down. I'm talking about Intel, right? So that's my issue here. Now, besides this, everything checked out well. A touch, as mentioned, a touch of ARGB. I love this so much. It just pops the whole Liquid AIO. Now, coming to the fans, the diffusion is fantastic. The noise resolution, fantastic. It's not giving you a sharp pitch. Instead, it's just a hum. In fact, if you have to place inside the case, right, I can't hear this at all. Based on the fact that it's ramping up only max at 2500 RPM. Not those AIO that goes 3000 and such. Those are really very noisy AIO. I mean, it's like, the fans. Now, one thing which I appreciate about these fans is the daisy chain mechanism. As you can see, there are no cable mess to feeder with. It's all tucked within the fan frame. It's hidden. That is fantastic. Now, one last thing I'd like to talk about is the radiator itself. Every one of us want our Liquid AIO to be very personal. But the thing is that, okay, maybe this is not very major. As you can see that the radiator have this label that says TT, or should I say Thermaltake. Now, I understand that Thermaltake have this pride on their work. It's a good thing. But as a consumer, right, we would like our, equipment to look personal. So probably change this white label to something embedded black. Okay, it is still your product, but it's just that, having it, I mean, for me, as a personal take, I wouldn't want this white wording. Probably I'll find a black tape to cover it. So do us a favor, probably have this logo, right, or should I say your labeling in black. Now, coming to the main point, is this liquid cooler worth purchasing? Now, I've shown you that this is a B tier Liquid AIO that is able to cater for a 9950X without any issues, and it's hovering around 79 degrees to 80 degrees Celsius. And you check out with the VRM heatsink, the M.2 and your RAMs, it all check out very well. And at this price point, okay, please be shocked, it's only cost you $91 USD. And in Singapore, if you guys are interested to purchase this, right, Cobell is actually offering. In fact, on my top right hand corner, you can see the QR code. You can click on that, or should I say scan on that. It costs you $119 at the moment. Okay, now why do I say at the moment? If you guys can wait, Shopee have this so-called the vouchers and such, right, it will be even cheaper. So instead of $119, right, probably it'll be like $100 and such. So there we have it, the Thermaltake LA360-S, fantastic unit, worth getting, though it's actually B tier. I mean B tier. Okay, A tier, B tier, C tier. What are those? A tier is if the idle is at 46 degrees Celsius and the load of all my settings, right, it is hovering around 75 to 76 degrees Celsius. That is A tier. This is B tier, whereby it's below 80 degrees Celsius. And for C tier is above 82, 83 degrees Celsius. So that's what I mean by B tier Liquid AIO is worth getting. Alright, with this said, I'd like to thank Thermaltake to have provided this unit for me to share with everyone, and to Cobell to have done the arrangement on the delivery. And for those of you actually new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you like my content, do remember to subscribe and to click on the notification bell button. Do me one last favor, if you like this content, kindly help me to click on the like button. and this will help my channel. With this said, thank you very much. Take care. Goodbye. See ya.